8/0 purple. Start just behind the eye. Dress the hook back to about the hook point. I take some mousse. Pull out the thick pieces, short pieces, some of the hair. I typically will cut this down and stack it twice. So I go into my big stacker first. And then I typically will cut it down again. And then go into my final stacker. And then I'm looking for about body length, about a hook shank length. Transfer that measurement. A couple of loose wraps. Make sure everything's riding on top of the hook, and I start to come down a little bit. I'm going to come back to about the barb with my wraps. Sometimes I'll add a wrap underneath just to keep everything nice and high. And then what I'll do is I'll come under to about the point that I want my parachute post to start, and then I'll put one wrap down there. Again, pulling everything back up on top of the hook. And I'll come in with my scissors and just cut that off. And then just dress it down. That's a little further forward than I would like. Kind of try to stop it right at the point where I'm going to put my parachute in. So I'm going to put in some poly parapost. And about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. Be a little wasteful with this. A couple different ways to do this. The easiest way is just to come underneath and just kind of start to tie it down. Then what I do is kind of loop it to start the post, and then before I keep going, I usually will add some Zap-A-Gap in here. Just to start everything locking down. You can also use UV. It's a little faster. Then I'm just kind of riding up that post. I'm not pulling real tight. Just kind of working my way up there. Try not to trap anything. If these things get crazy on you, you can just kind of spin them up, because ultimately you're going to trim them out later. And then we're going to find a size 14 hackle. I like to use a hackle gauge on these to make sure that your thickest part of your hackle is right on the 14 marks, which makes most of the rest of it slightly shorter. And then I'm just going to trim off just the base of that. Instead of stripping it, if you trim it, it gives you a little bit more traction. locks it in there. And while the super glue is still wet, I come in from the back side here and just catch the very tip. And then again I come back up and use that to help build the post. Adding a camera always seems to make things work just slightly less better. Just tied like 6 dozen of these without ever doing that. So again, come back down. I'm not pulling real hard because this thing's still pretty pliable, but it should be starting to lock itself in. Alright, so that's pretty much the body. And then there's a bunch of different materials you can use. I like this microfly in purple. And I just pull out the wispiest little bits here and get it just kind of started on the thread. And I keep my thread a little bit forward. And then I kind of will wrap back towards the starting point here. Add a twist. Always just twisting one direction and kind of rubbing your fingers together. You kind of want to be mashing those fingers together. That's what I love about the Norbice bobbins, is you can kind of move upper and closer. Your underbody sort of wants to look pretty close to the taper that you want, so you can keep it nice and thin. And then I just stop right at the parachute post. And a lot of times I'll just finish it with that dubbing, but you can also do a nice flashy purple. Try and thin that as much as I can. You can also rib the abdomen. And again, just kind of tighten this up, stretch it out once you get it hooked on there. And then we're going to go up, right up towards the eye. You can also use 2 colors of hackle. So I'm just leaving myself just enough there for finishing the eye. Again, I don't rub back and forth, just one way open, one way open. If you rub it back and forth, it's kind of a pointless exercise. So again, with dubbing, you just want to get it started, because that allows you to anchor that. Come back, get some good wraps on that post. And because my thread's purple, I can wrap in there and it doesn't make anything too horribly apparent. And then I'm just going to come over and around the post and then just let it just hang down just like that. So I'm actually over the top of the post going clockwise here. That's the way I'm going to finish the fly. Pull off that little bit of extra. So now my thread's just hanging on my side of the fly. So I'm going to take my hackle pliers. There's a couple different kinds that I like for this. I do like these wire pliers. Buy 12 of them on eBay for a couple bucks. And then I'm going to kind of get things started. This is the part that takes a little bit of practice to make sure you're not twisting. And I'm going to wrap down and then I'm going to wrap back up. Again, that post should be pretty solid at this point. It'll obviously pull around until I cover up all the thread, and then I'm going to wrap back down again. Nice collar all the way down to the bottom. The thing I like about these pliers is if you run, I like to clip them right at the end, but you can also give yourself a little bit more room there if you need it. Alright, so I'm already over the top, and then what I'm going to do is just come around, and I'm going to keep my thread low, come up over the eye of the hook, come back down low, come over the back of the fly, stay low. So we're just coming up where we need to. And now I've got 4 turns on that. I can let go of the hackle with my hackle pliers. So again, I'm around the post. I'm on the near side of the hook. Can rotate it up. Then I can just reach in there, grab those hackles, grab the tip, and then grab a little bit of extra. That'll give me a nice clean base. I should have a clean base on the other side. Yep, I do. And then there's lots of different ways to do this, but I've kind of figured out this little trick because I'm around the top of the pair post. What I do is come up, pull underneath, and just drop my thread right over the top of the fly here. And I actually come backwards on the head for a second. So I'm keeping everything going in one direction. And then I've got this hackle plier tool, or this hackle head tool, and I'm going to make a couple of backwards half hitches. So this keeps the hackle out of there. So I just come backwards towards me, and then I actually rotate this thing in my fingers back towards the head. So I got 2 go in that direction, and I'll come back the other direction and lock it in. So one over the top, I can do another one over the top. Now I'm going back clockwise. So I kind of changed directions there by using some half hitches. And then I'm going to use my half hitch tool finally. Make sure I got plenty of thread. And I'll get that set up, and then what I'll do is I'll just come up underneath, pull everything out of the way, and I'll actually build my head using my whip finisher. Come up underneath, trim that off, and then what I do to, if I'm using Zap-A-Gap, you can also again use UV, is I keep a little bodkin, which is really just a needle or a pin that I bent into a set of an old X-Acto knife head, but I transfer just the tiniest bit onto that, and then I get in there and get at the head. And then if I had gotten anywhere too close to the eye of that, or if I'm worried about that, I just keep a piece of wire on my desk and I'll thread that up through the eye. And then just pull that through, and that'll make sure that eye is clear. So now what I do is kind of pull everything forward, make sure I don't have any errant fibers. Again, I twist those up, and then I just come up over the top however long I want them. I like mine shorter, and clip it off. And there you go. That's my version of the Purple Haze. That's a size 14. Hope that helped.